I understand at this point that you're probably asking yourself, well, why is this so important to you, Candace? The answer is this: I've decided that it is my personal mission to equip individuals and families to be prepared to leave this world in a place of peace. But listen, this can only be accomplished when you decide to give your family one final gift, the gift of telling them precisely how you desire to be remembered, and free them of the added burden of having to make such major decisions at a time when, no matter what, they are going to be grief stricken. But listen, because I know human nature, and I know some of you listening to me right now are thinking to yourself, I still got time. I'll take care of that later. Because of that, I've decided to share a personal story with you. And this story begins on the morning of January 5th, 2015. It was a typical morning. I was getting ready for work, and I got a text message. And the text message was from my godbrother, Titus. And he was sending me in rapid fire all of these pictures of his son's christening service that unfortunately I wasn't able to attend. And he was just wanting me to see. And of course, I'm a very proud auntie. And he wanted to make sure that I had these photos. And being that it was just after the new year, of course, he was also talking to me about his plans for the new year, of course, via text. During that back and forth exchange, we were even discussing getting together in the near future. And we had actually made plans to talk about that, over the phone later on that evening. So at my usual time, I got in the car, I drove to work, and on that particular morning, I actually had a funeral service that I was going to have to direct. So I get to work, and right away I have to hit the ground running because it's a pretty early morning service. The loved ones of that particular individual arrived, and as they're entering the chapel, I'm greeting the various people. I'm greeting the minister, and I'm making sure everyone has what they need. That's my job. It was a small, intimate service, and an amazing thing happened that morning. I realized through some conversation with the minister when he first arrived that actually the decedent was a member of a sister congregation. So essentially we were sisters in Christ. And so it was just a very nice exchange among fellow saints. Because it was a small, intimate service, I had the opportunity to sit down in the back of the chapel and to just engage in some of the singing, the a cappella singing that was taking place during this beautiful memorial service. As I was sitting there, I couldn't help but have this feeling. I received this feeling at this time of peace. It was just a beautiful service, and there were these individuals who were celebrating the life of what seemed to be a very generous, loving soul. And I just engaged in singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs along with this group of individuals. But like I said, something was different about this particular service. I felt a connection. I felt a connection with the words of the song that I was singing. And it was almost as if I was being prepared for something in my spirit. It's hard to explain. I went on and at the end of the service, of course, bid the family farewell. I went on with the remainder of my day at work, came home, and probably around 8 or 9 o'clock, I received a telephone call from my sister. And during the course of that conversation, she asked me, had I spoken to Titus recently? And I said, oh yeah, actually I talked to him this morning, and shoot, I was supposed to give him a call tonight. We were supposed to talk because, we were supposed to make plans to get together. And in that moment, I'm thinking, I really need to get off the phone with you and call him because it's getting late. And my sister got quiet, really quiet. And I said, well, why do you ask? And she said, Candace, I'm really not sure about this. She said, but I've been seeing some things on Facebook today about Titus. And I said, well, what things? And she said, I'm so sorry. She said, but I think Titus has died. And immediately, I just went into this place of absolute denial. I mean, I didn't believe it. And I was thinking to myself, you know how Facebook is, somebody thinks they saw something or think they heard something, and then in rapid fire, there's all of these rumors and they're just swirling around everyone's pages. And so, of course, I was on a mission to prove her wrong. So I said, well, you know what? I need to go. I said, I'm just going to go call him. And I hung up. And I dialed his number. And he didn't answer. So I left him a message. But then a few minutes later, I called again. And he didn't answer. And I know most people would think, well, there's nothing abnormal about that. Sometimes people don't answer their phone. Sometimes I don't answer my phone. I'm not able to answer my phone. But it was abnormal. It was abnormal for him in our relationship because we had the type of relationship that even if he were on the phone, he would text me and say, hey sis, I'm gonna call you back in a few minutes. So I waited, and I didn't get a call. So at this point, I'm becoming anxious. And because, like I said, I was determined that I was going to prove my sister didn't know what she was talking about. So at a certain point, I decided that I needed to see what was going on Facebook. So I logged on my phone and I looked around and I saw these things popping up in the news feed and just these statements that were being made and about farewell and I'll miss you. And still wasn't believing it. I still didn't believe it. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to check one of his daughter's pages. And I did. And there it was. No more able to deny it. I'm going to miss you forever, Daddy. And so I knew then that he was really gone. It wasn't until the next day that I got an opportunity to talk with his wife. And during that conversation, what I found out is that he had just fallen to the floor that morning, not too long after we got off the phone texting that morning. And while I was in my service, serving the family that I was serving on that particular day and that particular moment, during that very hour, he was at the hospital and being pronounced dead. And I remember thinking that while he was dying, I was serving another family. But even in that moment, God was with me. And I was singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. God was preparing me for what was going to be the most devastating experience to date of my life. I didn't get the opportunity to call him. And we didn't get the opportunity to get together like we planned. He was gone, and he wasn't coming back. And it was real, and it actually did happen. And he was just 41 years old. He had a wife and several beautiful children, the youngest of which wasn't even 2 years old yet at the time. And just like that, he was gone. And I know that he wasn't thinking that his appointment with death was going to be that day. So I say to you, no one knows when that time is coming. Whether you have a terminal illness or not, you still don't know the exact day or hour. You do have the benefit of understanding the urgency of becoming prepared. But like I said in the beginning, not everyone gets that opportunity. So, what is the purpose behind my passion? What is the passion behind my purpose? Well, his name was Ty, and he was my brother. And I don't want another individual, another family, to have to be faced with the same set of circumstances that his family was faced with, that we were faced with, following his very unexpected death. Fortunately, though, and by God's grace, because of the type of life he lived and because of all he gave, there were individuals who came together and financed a beautiful and fitting service for the life that he lived. But that doesn't always happen. And sometimes families are left in very precarious situations that they don't have to be left in, that you don't have to be left in, that you don't have to leave your family in. So again, I invite you to visit my website, CandiceJacobsCreations.com, and to visit over the next several weeks. Subscribe to my mailing list where you'll get an opportunity to receive details as they unfold regarding this particular event. I also invite you to go there and please fill out an interest survey. The interest survey for this event can be found underneath the latest news tab on my webpage. I invite each and every one of you to complete this survey. It is only 15 questions and should only take you approximately 5 to 10 minutes at the most. I truly appreciate you taking the time to do this, for taking the time to listen to me. I understand that while the story I shared with you is deeply personal to me, that it may not be particularly unique. I know that there are far too many families out there who have had the very same experience at some point in time with a loved one. And that fact is precisely what I am prepared to work so hard to change. Again, I thank you for your kind attention, and I look forward to hearing from you very soon. Be blessed.